Okay, let's dive into this stack of sources you shared with us. We're exploring one of the most, well, enduring and really disturbing cold cases in American history.
Yeah, it's a story that's become almost mythological,
Right.
wrapped up in that dark glamour of post-war LA.
Absolutely.
And this material, it's incredibly rich. It covers everything from the gruesome discovery itself, Elizabeth Short's life story, the media explosion.
The whole thing.
Right. And this decades-long investigation, or lack thereof in some ways. Our goal today is really to navigate these details, pull out the most critical insights, and try to understand why this case, the Black Dahlia case, still holds such a fascination.
And why it's still unsolved, tragically.
Exactly.
Right, so let's set the scene. It's January 1947, Los Angeles. A discovery was about to, well, shock the nation and kick off this mystery that, frankly, still haunts us.
Picture this. Morning of January 15th, 1947. Betty Berzinger is out walking with her young daughter, quiet neighborhood Limert Park,
Okay.
and she spots something. Something odd in an abandoned lot just off the sidewalk.
What did she think it was?
At first, she thought it was a mannequin. Discarded, chillingly pale against the dirt.
Wow.
But as she got closer, the horrific truth hits her. It's a body, a young woman brutally cut in half right at the waist.
Oh, my God. She shielded her daughter's eyes, right?
Yeah.
And ran for help.
She did. Ran to a nearby house and called the police.
So detectives Phoenix Brown and Harry Hansen arrive. But the scene, it sounds like it was chaos already.
Total chaos. By the time they got there, reporters, curious onlookers, they'd swarmed the area, just trampling potential evidence everywhere.
So right from the start, the investigation faced huge obstacles.
Huge. Aggie Underwood, a reporter from the Herald Express, she was actually one of the first people there, taking photos before the police could even properly secure it.
Unbelievable.
And when the detectives finally got to examine the body, it was positioned face up, the two halves separated by about a foot. Arms raised, legs spread.
The detail about it being washed clean.
Yeah, that's a striking detail the material highlights. Washed clean of blood. And her internal organs, they were tucked neatly under the lower torso.
Which strongly suggested
that the murder didn't happen there. No. The body was carefully cleaned, posed, and then dumped in that lot.
that level of deliberation, washing the body, posing it, it's incredibly unsettling. What else did the sources say about the state of her body?
Well, beyond the bisection, the mutilations were just horrific. Extensive, deliberate, deep cuts on her breasts, thighs, flesh removed.
And her face.
Her face had the infamous Glasgow smile. These gruesome gashes, 3 inches long from the corners of her mouth right towards her ears, both sides.
Just awful. And ligature marks, too.
Yes, visible on her wrists, ankles, and neck. Clear signs she'd been restrained.
So evidence of restraint and severe mutilation after death. What about clues? Despite the chaos, did they find anything useful at the scene?
Very little, unfortunately. The material mentions detectives noted a heel print near the body among some tire tracks, and there was a cement sack nearby had some watery blood in it.
Okay, something at least.
They also estimated, based on the temperature and dew, that the body was probably placed there sometime after 2 a.m. that morning. It was cold, below 38 degrees.
Before they knew who she was, could they get a basic description?
Yeah, despite the terrible condition, estimated around 5'6", maybe 115 pounds, mousy brown hair, but it looked like it had been recently hennaed, kind of reddish.
Anything else stand out?
Her fingernails were bitten, and those rope marks, again, really clear on her wrists, ankles, neck.
Okay, so the next big step was identification.
Crucial. And the material really sheds light on this unique, sometimes pretty questionable relationship between the LA police and the newspapers back then.
Symbiotic, you called it.
Yeah, exactly. Police needed the press to get the word out, public appeals, And the press, well, they craved the scoops. Big time.
And the papers had tech. The police didn't, like that Examiner's sound photo machine.
Precisely. The detectives actually gave fingerprints lifted from the body to the Examiner newspaper. Yeah, and the Examiner used their sound photo system, basically an early fax machine, to send enlargements straight to the FBI in D.C.
And the FBI got a match pretty quickly.
Very fast. Elizabeth Short, 22 years old, from Boston. Her prints were already on file.
Why? What for?
A couple of things. A mailroom job she had at an Army base, Camp Cook, and also a minor arrest back in '43 for underage drinking in Santa Barbara.
Got it. And when the press got her photo back from the FBI, what was the reaction?
Well, this is fascinating. The material notes they immediately saw her as attractive, and they instantly realized the sensational potential. This wasn't just another murder. They knew how to spin this into a national spectacle.
Which led to that just appalling tactic they used on her mother, Phoebe.
Oh, yeah. Completely unethical. Examiner reporters called her, claiming Elizabeth had won a beauty contest just to get personal details, memories, photos.
And only then, after getting what they wanted, did they break the news that she was dead.
It's shocking. It really shows the brutal competition between the papers back then.
Just ruthless.
So the sources then walk us through Elizabeth Short's background. Born in Hyde Park, Massachusetts, 1924, one of 5 daughters.
And her father, Cleo. He faked his own death.
Yeah, after a business bankruptcy in 1929, just disappeared, then reappeared years later out in California. Quite a story there already.
A childhood friend mentioned in the sources, Mary Pacios, remembered her as Bet. Said she was like a big sister, took her to the movies, Ginger Rogers, stars like that.
Yeah, maybe sparking that early Hollywood dream, that fascination.
Could be. The sources also mentioned she had respiratory problems, asthma, bronchitis.
Right. Doctors apparently suggested a milder climate, which is partly why she started spending winters down in Miami. She dropped out of high school, worked as a waitress there.
Then, in 1942, she's 18, she moves out to California to live with her father, Cleo, near Vallejo. But that reunion didn't go well.
Not really. Sounds like it was difficult. She hadn't seen him since she was 6 years old. They were practically strangers.
And clashing expectations.
Totally. Cleo, maybe haunted by his past actions, wanted her to be like a housekeeper, do chores. But Elizabeth, the sources describe her as a free spirit, not interested in that life at all.
So she moved out pretty quickly, January 43.
Yep, and found work in the mailroom at Camp Cook, that army base.
Which the sources paint as being full of lonely soldiers.
Oh, yeah. And she became the camp cutie, apparently voted movie star quality. The material says she left a trail of broken hearts and erotic longing.
Sounds intense. There was also a relationship there, possibly abusive.
Yeah, a brief one with an Army Air Force sergeant, described as potentially abusive, yes.
After Camp Cook, she ends up in Santa Barbara. That's where the underage drinking arrest happened.
That's right. Got sent back east because of it. But she didn't stay long, went back to Florida, then kind of drifted across the country.
Waitressing, enjoying the nightlife.
Exactly. Clubs, dancing, attention from men. That seems to be what she enjoyed.
Now, relationships seem key to her story in these sources, particularly Major Matthew Michael Gordon Jr., Matt Gordon.
Yes, a really significant relationship. An Army Air Force officer she met in Florida. The sources even mention a gushing letter she sent home to her mother, saying how much she was in love.
But it ended tragically.
Terribly. Matt Gordon died in a plane crash, returning from India just before Japan surrendered in 1945.
How did she handle that? The sources mention.
It hit her hard. Deep depression, apparently. Constantly rereading his letters, wearing his pilot wings he'd given her. She even started a hope chest with things he'd sent.
So sad. To cope, she went back to Miami and sought distraction.
Seems like it. The sources mention an endless parade of young men, and she apparently preferred men with plenty of spending money.
Using her charm and her style, she had a very distinct look, right?
Very. Black tailored suits, ruffled blouses, long gloves, high heels. Elegant, striking. And yes, she used her looks and charm to get meals, sometimes rent money, or just cash from admirers.
But the sources are clear. No actual evidence she was a prostitute.
Absolutely clear on that. Despite the later rumors and media portrayal, the sources stress there's no proof of that.
Okay, so after drifting, she comes back to Southern California in July 1946 to be near another lieutenant, Joseph Gordon Fickling.
Right, but that relationship is described as turbulent. Based on letters the police later found, Fickling apparently wasn't happy with her flirtatious nature.
But he still sent her money, even after he moved north.
He did. Sent her $100 just the month before she died. And her last known letter to him, January 8th, 1947, just days before she disappeared, said she was planning to move to Chicago to become a fashion model.
Wow, so close to when... Okay, and this is where the media narrative really kicks in, right?
Oh, definitely. The papers already fighting tooth and nail for circulation, they just zeroed in on her life in those last 6 months.
The transients, moving between hotels, boarding houses.
Yeah, often short on cash. There's even a story about her sneaking out of a Hollywood apartment to avoid paying rent. They painted this picture of instability.
And her look played into it, too. The black clothes.
Absolutely. Her preference for black tailored suits, that tight skirt and sheer blouse mentioned in one article, combined with this lifestyle narrative, that's how the press landed on the nickname Black Dahlia.
And they ran with it.
Ran wild. portraying her as promiscuous and adventurous prowling Hollywood Boulevard, framing the murder as a sex fiend slaying. One paper even called it the werewolf murder.
It's classic news noir, as the sources call it. Facts almost secondary to the drama.
Completely. And there's even debate in the sources about whether Elizabeth Short ever actually used the nickname Black Dahlia herself during her lifetime.
Right. Different claims. A detective, a reporter interviewing drugstore folks.
Yeah, or a copy editor, Larry Harnish, claiming she did use it, got it from drugstore staff, maybe referencing that film noir, The Blue Dahlia from '46.
But we don't know for sure if she ever called herself that.
No. Regardless, the name stuck, became instantly iconic. The sources also clarify, while she was called an aspiring or would-be actress, there's no record of her having any actual roles or credits.
Just part of the image the press built.
Exactly. And this whole media frenzy made it the first really huge crime case to grab the public's attention after World War II. The police even kind of played into it sometimes.
Oh, no.
Well, the sources mention they sometimes let minor inconsistencies get published, like denying she was tortured initially, just to keep other more critical details secret from the public, and potentially the killer.
Smart, in a way. Okay, let's get into the autopsy details. Dr. Frederick Newbar, January 16th.
Right. The report confirms some basics. Slightly different height, maybe. 5'5", but same weight. 115 pounds. Light blue eyes, brown hair.
And the detail about her teeth.
Yeah, less glamorous. Severe decay, apparently plugged with wax, gives you a glimpse into maybe some hardships.
The bisection method, hemicorporectomy.
Yes, that's the term used. It involves disarticulating the lumbar spine. And the report confirmed the body was washed thoroughly with gasoline, almost certainly to destroy evidence, fingerprints.
And the lack of bruising along the incision line. That points to it being done post-mortem.
Exactly. Strongly suggests the bisection happened after she was already dead. The report also detailed the other injuries again. The gaping cut on her abdomen, those awful Glasgow smile cuts, the ligature marks.
The sources also debunk some myths, right? Like cigarette burns.
Correct. The sources are clear. The autopsy report showed no indication of cigarette burns, despite later stories.
And the claim about forcing her to consume feces.
Also addressed. The sources say that specific claim, attributed to Newbar by some, has been denied by others involved. It's murky.
So what was the official cause of death then?
Dr. Newbar determined it was massive internal hemorrhaging from blows to the head, combined with shock from the violence to her head and face. There was some bleeding consistent with head injuries.
The report noted a dilated anal canal, leading to rape speculation.
Yes, initially. But crucially, the autopsy found no traces of sperm. Samples tested negative. So while horrific, the specific nature of any sexual assault remains unclear from the report, though the brutality is undeniable.
Then there was that controversial claim from a deputy coroner about her genitalia.
Ah, yes. The claim they were small, leading to unfounded rumors she might be lesbian or couldn't have sex, suffering from infantile genitalia. The autopsy report mentions a small uterus, but nothing anatomically abnormal.
But those rumors led police to investigate gay bars.
Apparently so. A real diversion of resources based on basically nothing concrete in the official findings.
So the immediate police response on the ground.
Yeah.
Massive search, right?
Huge. 40 officers going house to house, checking dumpsters, laundromats in the area, but nothing. No real leads from the scene itself.
And her father, Cleo, living just 3 miles away.
Unbelievably close. But he refused to identify the body, and the sources say he just kept expressing anger about her running around, not doing chores, even after she was murdered, just cold.
Wow. Was there a witness sighting near the lot? A man by a car?
There was. Someone saw a man standing near a parked sedan early that morning. The man seemed startled, looked into the witness's car, then drove off. The owner of that sedan was apparently tracked down but later cleared. Another dead end.
The precision of the bisection made them think of a surgeon. Or someone with medical knowledge.
Exactly. That led them to ask USC for a list of their medical students, trying to find anyone with that kind of skill.
And the public response? Tons of tips, letters.
An absolute avalanche. Hundreds pouring into the FBI, the LAPD, people claiming they knew something, blaming neighbors, confessing themselves. Letters to J. Edgar Hoover directly. One woman claimed a suspect scammed her $75 promising movie roles.
Just noise, mostly. How many investigators were initially on it?
A huge number. 750 investigators from LAPD and other departments, 400 sheriff's deputies, 250 state patrol officers. The city council even offered a $10,000 reward.
But Sergeant Fitzbrown, one of the lead detectives, he felt the press actually hurt the investigation.
He did. He later said the LA press compromised things with unverified reporting, creating rumors, half-truths, and outright fabrications. That whole media circus wasn't just reporting, it was actively getting in the way.
Speaking of noise, the confessors. So many.
A deluge. Over 30, right at the start, eventually hundreds. Most were clearly fake attention seekers, people with mental health issues, nut jobs, as they were called.
And some of the first were women.
Surprisingly, yes. Minnie Sepulveda made a phone call, Emily Williams too, quickly dismissed though.
Others mentioned are Daniel Voorhees, Marvin Hart.
Right. Voorhees claimed he dated her years earlier, but his facts were wrong. Hart was arrested after saying he killed a man, and he had dated Short, but he had an alibi for the time of the murder.
Then Joseph Dumais, the soldier.
He seemed promising for a moment. A corporal, combat veteran, found with blood-stained trousers, pockets stuffed with Dahlia clippings. But his confession didn't hold water under questioning, sent to an army psychiatrist.
Just think of the wasted manpower chasing all these false leads.
Exactly. Detective Hansen complained about sorting through letters from pranksters, sometimes mailed from states away.
So they questioned actual boyfriends, too, over 20.
They did. But again, no solid leads came from them. Which led to the theory, maybe the killer wasn't someone she knew well. Maybe just a random pickup gone horribly wrong.
Which brings us to Mark Hansen. His address book showed up in that package, right?
Yes. The owner of the address book found in the envelope mailed to the papers. He was a wealthy nightclub and theater owner, became a major suspect for a time.
Why him specifically, beyond the book?
Well, Short had reportedly stayed with friends at his home occasionally, and he identified the items in the envelope. And Toth, who was Short's roommate for a bit, apparently suggested Hansen was a suspect because Short had rejected his advances.
But he was cleared, like Robert Red Manley.
Yes, Hansen was eventually cleared. Same for Manley, another man connected to Short in her final days, who apparently passed multiple polygraph tests.
And that address book, 75 other men listed.
Yeah, can you imagine? Police tried tracking them down, and their stories, according to the sources, were often very similar. Met Short at a club or bar, bought her drinks, maybe dinner.
But nothing physical.
Right. If she wasn't interested in a physical relationship, they often never saw her again. Consistent with someone charming, but perhaps cautious or selective.
Okay, let's talk about the letters in the phone call. That call to the Examiner editor.
Dramatic moment. January 21st, 1947, James Richardson at the Examiner gets a call. Someone claiming to be the killer. Congratulating the paper on their coverage.
Chilling.
And promising to turn himself in later, saying to expect souvenirs of Dahlia in the mail.
And 3 days later, the envelope arrived.
Yep. Manila envelope addressed to the LA papers. And the material notes, it reeked of gasoline, just like the body had been washed with, suggesting the sender tried to wipe off fingerprints.
What was the message on it?
Cut and pasted lettering, like a ransom note. It said, "Here is Dahlia's belongings. Letter to follow."
And inside, her personal effects.
Exactly. Birth certificate, business card, social security card, Matt Gordon's obituary notice, some names written on paper, photos, and Mark Hansen's address book.
They got prints off it, but they were damaged.
Sadly, yes. Lifted some prints, but they were somehow compromised in transit to the FBI. Another critical piece of potential evidence lost.
Were there other letters?
There were 13 known to exist, according to the sources. Some cut and paste like the first, others handwritten. Some were signed Black Dahlia Avenger.
Any credible threats or leads in them?
One offered to surrender at a specific time and place, but nobody showed up. A follow-up letter claimed to the sender, "Changed my mind. You would not give me a square deal." But the authenticity of any of these letters has never been truly confirmed. They could all be hoaxes.
And that suicide note found later, March 47.
Yeah, another strange piece. Found tucked in a shoe near a pile of men's clothing by the ocean in Venice.
What did it say?
"To whom it may concern, I have waited for the police to capture me for the Black Dahlia killing, but have not. I am too much of a coward to turn myself in, so this is the best way out for me. I couldn't help myself for that, or this. Sorry, Mary."
Sorry, Mary. Weird. Were the clothes ever traced?
Never traced. So its connection to the actual case remains completely unknown. Could be unrelated, could be another elaborate hoax.
Okay, one of the big mysteries is the missing week.
Right. That gap between January 9th, when she was last definitively seen leaving the Biltmore Hotel, and January 15th, when her body was found. 6 days.
Lots of alleged sightings during that time.
Tons. People who didn't know her personally claiming they saw her here or there, but police could never confirm any of them. Usually chalked up to misidentification, maybe people wanting to be part of the story.
There was also that weird story about the Astra Motel. Blood and other stuff found in a room.
Yeah, the owners reported finding a room covered in blood and fecal matter the same morning the body was found. Sounds significant, right? But the material notes that in 1949, the LAPD chief publicly denied it had anything to do with the Black Dahlia case.
So basically, after she left the Biltmore, her whereabouts are a complete blank until she met her killer.
That's what the known facts suggest. She vanished, encountered her killer, was subjected to that horrific ordeal, murdered, mutilated, and dumped. What happened in those days remains unknown.
The material also brings up the idea of connections to other unsolved murders of women around LA and San Diego back then.
Yeah, it's a chilling thought. Was this part of a pattern? Specific cases mentioned include Jean French, the red lipstick murder, found just a month after Short, nude, beaten, with "fuck you BD," supposedly written on her stomach. Though maybe it meant PD for police department. Hard to say.
Others, too. Evelyn Winters, Laura Trelstad.
Yes. Evelyn Winters bludgeoned and strangled in a vacant lot. Laura Eliza Trelstad, the mad werewolf victim, assaulted, bludgeoned, strangled, thrown from a car. Georgette Bauerdorf, an oil heiress found in her bathtub. Gladys Landon, Jean Spangler, who disappeared in '49.
They all got these sensational nicknames, too. Red Ribbon Murder, Green Twig Murder.
Right, the press loved that stuff. The material also mentions unsolved murders of women down in San Diego, even earlier, back in the 30s. Virginia Brooks, Louise Tuber, about 8 others between 31 and 47. It notes these are indicative of that time when lone women were targeted.
And the Cleveland Torso Murders connection from the 30s.
That's another theory floated, the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run. Victims dismembered, similar in some ways. A detective named Peter Marillo pushed this theory, connecting the Cleveland killer and the Dahlia killer. He even had a prime suspect there, Dr. Francis Sweeney. But Sweeney was never convicted.
What about the lipstick murders in Chicago?
Those happened between June 45 and January 46. Messages written in lipstick at the scenes. There was even a claim Elizabeth Short herself was investigating one of those victims, Suzanne Dignan, before her own death.
But were they connected?
The sources say those murders were solved with the arrest of William Aarons, although he later claimed he was tortured and framed. But critically, the sources find no solid evidence really connecting Aarons or the lipstick murders to Elizabeth Short's killing. Lots of speculation, no proof.
So by spring 47, the Dahlia case is cold. Stone cold.
Pretty much. Then, in September 1949, a grand jury convenes, not just about Dahlia, but about wider problems, perceived inadequacies in the LAPD homicide unit, the sheer number of unsolved murders of women and children.
And there was another grand jury later that year about police corruption.
Right, the Brenda Allen scandal, a well-known madam who was allegedly paying off police officers. That led to the police chief resigning and calls for major LAPD reform. It was a time of real scrutiny for the department.
How does this connect back to Dahlia? Well, the media painted her as a prostitute, right, but the grand jury
found something different. Despite all the sensational press coverage calling her a prostitute or call girl, the grand jury's formal findings stated there was no existing evidence that Elizabeth Short was ever a prostitute. A major correction to the narrative.
And that grand jury report named suspects.
It did. A formal report mentioned 5 names as prime suspects in the Dahlia case. They weren't indicted then because the investigation was technically still open. But later, it came out that one of those 5 names was George Hodel.
George Hodel. Okay, let's focus on him. The sources present him as a serious potential suspect. Successful doctor, lived well.
Yes. He came onto the police radar in 1949, actually, for something else entirely. He was arraigned on felony charges based on accusations from his own 14-year-old daughter, Tamar.
What were the accusations?
Molestation, getting her pregnant, forcing an abortion, really disturbing stuff. Witnesses apparently supported her claims, but Hodel was acquitted in court.
But because the police suspected a doctor might be involved in the Dahlia killing,
Yeah.
they started watching Hodel.
Exactly. They put him under surveillance, wiretapped his home, February 18th to March 27th, 1950.
And those wiretaps, the material includes some pretty damning stuff.
Extremely chilling details. Transcripts revealed Hodel talking to someone called the Baron, seeming to implicate himself in various crimes, and then the direct quote.
Let's hear it.
Hodel is recorded saying, "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia. They couldn't prove it now. They can't talk to my secretary anymore because she's dead. They thought there was something fishy. Anyway, now they may have figured it out. Killed her. Maybe I did kill my secretary.
His secretary? Who's that?
Ruth Spaulding. Her death in 1945 had been ruled a suicide. But the sources say Hodel was actually considered a suspect in her death too, and also in the murder of another woman, Louise Springer, in June 49.
And the wiretaps caught something else. A woman screaming.
Reportedly, yes. An unidentified woman heard screaming, then silence, and apparently the monitoring officers didn't intervene. Another disturbing layer.
Lieutenant Frank Jemison, he felt they had enough to charge Hodel by April 1950.
He reportedly did. Felt he had a strong case building.
So why didn't it happen?
Hodel suddenly left the country, late March 1950. Just took off, lived abroad Asia, mostly until 1990. So no charges were ever brought against him back then. He literally vanished from their grasp.
And his connection only became public knowledge much later, 2003.
Right. When that specific George Hodel Black Dahlia file was found down at the DA's office, it brought all this back into the light.
What was the DA's perspective then, according to the sources?
Well, Lieutenant Jemison was quoted later saying basically, we know who the killer was. He was a doctor, but we didn't have enough to put him away. And Deputy DA Steve Kay, after reviewing the old files much later, gave his legal opinion that, quote, the case was solved, indicating Hodel.
And Hodel's own son has theories too, linking him to other murders.
Yes. Steve Hodel, a former LAPD detective himself, has done extensive research and believes his father was responsible not only for the Black Dahlia, but potentially other unsolved LA murders and maybe even the Zodiac killings. That's based on his own investigation, as mentioned in the sources we looked at.
So Elizabeth Short, she was buried quietly in Oakland.
Very quietly. Mountain View Cemetery, just 6 family members. And plainclothed police watching, just in case the killer might show up. He didn't.
Was there any direct consequence of the case mentioned, like policy changes?
Yes. One specific thing highlighted in the material. Just 2 weeks after the murder, a Republican state assemblyman, C. Don Field, was so disturbed, he called for a sex offender registry bill. That push led California to become the very first state to make sex offender registration mandatory, a direct result of this case.
But the case itself, still officially unsolved.
Still unsolved. No charges ever brought against those grand jury suspects. And tragically, so much physical evidence, like those letters, has just been lost over the decades. The FBI did eventually declassify about 203 pages from their files, but much is gone.
And Elizabeth Short's image, the pinup girl of Los Angeles noir.
That's how she's remembered, isn't it? That image, amplified by the press. Her style, the dyed hair, red lips, the white flowers sometimes seen in photos. It all created this lasting, almost mythical persona, often overshadowing the very real, very difficult life she lived.
And we keep coming back to the media's role. How much of the story we think we know was shaped by misconstrued facts, unethical methods?
Absolutely. That potent mix of sex, beauty, and violence, as the sources put it, turned a horrific, brutal murder into this enduring national spectacle. True news noir.
So wrapping up this deep dive, the sources really show the sheer complexity, don't they? The horror of the crime, the sad details of her life, the media circus, all those false leads.
And that tantalizing yet ultimately unproven connection to George Hodel that emerged decades later from those files. It's just layer upon layer.
Yeah, looking at these sources, what really sticks out are those human details beneath the myth. Her heartbreak over Matt Gordon, struggling with rent, and then the chilling specifics that quote on the wiretap, the almost surgical crime scene. It helps peel back the sensationalism.
It really does. And maybe that leaves us, and you listening, with a final thought to consider, drawing from all this material. Why? Why do cases like this, so full of gaps and distortions, capture our imagination so intensely for so long?
Good question.
And what does the way the Black Dahlia story was built by the press tell us about how narratives get constructed around real tragedy, both back then and maybe how we consume information even today?
Definitely something to think about. Thank you for providing these sources for this deep dive. It's a stark reminder that even the most famous stories need that critical look to try and separate the facts from the enduring fiction. Keep digging, keep being curious.